sand winning, galamsey, dealing with their forest reserves, biodiversity. So once you plan with these in mind, it translates right through to budgeting, and you have budgets that support how to curb these problems. And so this helps us to make our plan sustainable. We've actually just finished a review which will be published later of the districts and how well they've done over the period of the 12 years on addressing sustainability and in implementation. So we have actually developed a tool which is part of EPA has something called the ASARE, which is trumpeting. It is a disclosure system which we do for the mining industry, for the industries. We've now translated it to the district, and this is what we've done for all the districts, including the new ones. Some of the new ones have done very well. So we will actually bring this out at the right time. We've just finished a review, and the results will be presented at the right time. So for the MDGs on Goal 7B on sustainability, I think EPA did quite a great job. And we didn't do it alone. We did it with NDPC and our other stakeholders, like the districts and the sectors, various MDGs.
As we go into the SDGs, 17 goals have been proposed. Should we consider all 17, or do you think that there are some areas that we need to prioritize?
Okay. The good thing about the SDGs, the formulation of the SDG, is a principle of universality. You will realize that with the MDGs, we're talking about water for all in our parts of the world. Meanwhile, in the developed countries, they didn't have an issue of water for all. So what we've tried to do with the SDGs, first of all, is to ensure that each goal has all the 3 pillars of sustainability imbibed right down to the targets that we set. And we've made sure that all countries' interests and perspectives have been put into these goals. So the issue of universality is key. So I wouldn't think that we should choose and pick. We can prioritize, because it's for a period of 15 years, up to 2030. So what we can do is we can prioritize which goals will be addressed at a particular time, but we should look at it as a whole, holistically, to ensure that sustainability is achieved, because that is really the purpose of the SDGs. The good thing too was we have had the chance to negotiate on what we want for the Sustainable Development Goals. For the MDGs, we didn't have that chance. And so with this, we should not miss the boat and make sure that we look at all these universally, holistically, and try and make sure that we achieve sustainable development by 2030.
Would you say that the objectives that were set under Goal 7B, which were implemented under the MDGs, have been achieved to an extent where we do not necessarily need to factor them into the SDGs?
No, I don't think I would say we achieved 100%. I think we've done well, but sustainability is a process. It is not something that you can measure and say, I have achieved it through numbers. You are actually looking at behavioral patterns. These take time. Shifting our planning system to sustainability. We have actually done that by imbibing these tools, but we still need to build on it and make sure that what we are doing is translated at a sector level. For the district level, I would say that we have achieved a great lot, but at the sector level, it's still a bit slow, but it's coming up. So we need, as we said when we're developing the SDGs, one of the things we looked at when we were negotiating and drawing up as the open working group, the SDGs, was to build on lessons that we had learned from the MDGs. And this is one of the things that we did. We made sure that all the gaps that were not filled are still imbibed in the SDG document that we produced.
And so for you, we will have to look at all the goals that have been introduced under the SDGs, but segregate them.
That is how I'm saying. I'm talking about the fact that maybe we'll prioritize. For year 1, what are the main issues? They may be some of the things that we've already worked on in the MDGs. It's just building a bit upon them to solidify and make sure that it has been achieved. So for me, I think that is the way we will go, definitely, because we need money to implement the SDGs. That is very important. So for me, I think that is it's something that we need to look at. So I think we need to actually, what we need to do is to build upon what we've done for the MDGs, concretize them, and most of them are in the SDGs, and build and make sure that we have achieved them. Because we can't just, oh, we're doing MDGs, we leave it, we do SDGs. That was not what was decided when we were formulating the open working group. We decided, let's build upon the achievements, let's learn lessons. What were some of the lessons that came out of the MDGs? Some countries achieved a great lot, others didn't. Why was this? That's why we actually have a section on means of implementation under the SDGs. We need money to make sure that the SDGs are successful. And this is something that, as developed and developing nations, we are actually trying to formulate a process for and see how we can build partnerships to make sure that universally the SDGs are achieved. Because let's be honest, when you talk about sustainability, the globe does not know that there are developed and developing countries. They don't know that there's Ghana, there's Togo, there's Benin. No, there is nothing like that. It is the whole universe. And that is why universality is key to making sure that we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.
As we go into the SDGs, what are the possible sources of financing that we should be addressing our plans to?
It's interesting that you asked this question. For the next session, which of the negotiations on the post-2015 development agenda, the SDGs, we are going to look at means of implementation. And there's a whole paradigm shift now on actually financing, where it's not money going to be doled out by developed countries to developing countries. We are to build partnerships. The word partnerships is key to that success. So for me, I think it's not going, the beauty of getting the financing is not only going to come from Ghana government. We should have financing through partnerships with private sector, financing through partnerships with CSOs, other major groups. So the key thing that I see as sources of funding is partnership. And I think our president has talked a lot about PPPs, and this is, it's good to know that this is the international perspective to this. And so we need to find new ways and innovative ways of financing our SDGs. So this brings me to the issue of stakeholders. The SDGs is not going to be done by government of Ghana alone. We need all our media. The media is key to this. Our major groups are key to this. And this is how we think these various bridges can be built up and work together to ensure that we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's the same when it comes to financing. This is how we think we can.
No, there's a thinking that the development partners have cut back on their support to budgetary support necessarily. And so what is going to be different with the introduction of the SDGs?
Again, I come back to the issue of partnerships. The difference with the MDGs and the SDGs is that we have decided that we will have a section where we actually all agree on how the SDGs are going to be financed, because we realized that with the MDGs this was missing. And so of course when it came to monitoring, like I said before, some countries couldn't find enough source of funding for a particular MDG to be achieved, and yet we were all being tracked and monitored and assessed. So we decided with the SDGs to have a whole section. So if you look at the SDGs, there is a section on means of implementation. How are we as the whole world going to fund this? And this is what is going to come out of our next negotiation process. And I'll be in a better position to discuss with you this. However, on the side, as part of the process, SDG processes and the post-2015 processes, there is one process going on called the Finance for Development Framework. This is being handled by the Ministry of Finance, where there are actually negotiations by all nations on how do we think we can build a framework for actually financing the SDGs. And the main trust, as I have said, is partnerships. How do the private sector partner government? How does government partner the private sector? How does the private sector on its own also pick up some of the issues that they can help us with? So this is the new thinking. So it's not like the developing countries have actually cut back, but we all know what is happening all over the world. Their taxpayers are trying to make them accountable. We are also trying to make our governments accountable. The taxpayers are trying to make us accountable. How do we deal with it? It needs to be a transparent but actionable framework, and this is what we're trying to build on, and it's still under, it's in the process of being developed. And as I speak now, they are in New York trying to finalize and give us feedback on what they have, so that we as nation states can also look at this. So for now, this is the thrust for financing the SDGs. So I think this is a very important difference between the MDGs and the SDGs, bringing about the issue of universality. And we have different, we are all on different levels. So yes, cases have been made for least development countries, cases have been made for least development countries, cases have been made for Ghana. We are now in the lower income countries. So these are all cases are being made for each country on how to finance the SDGs and how we can all ensure that at the end of these 15 years, we would have at least us, a nation state, global nation states, together achieved these goals.
As we wrap up, what I would like to find out is how the citizenry will be carried along, because this is to inure to their benefit. So to what extent will they be integrated into the process of implementation?
The citizenry, as you said, are the people for who we're actually putting together this sustainable development goals. And what we plan to do is to have a lot of publicity on the media, and we are actually partnering with the media to develop this. There's a draft communication strategy in place where the populace, the citizenry will be educated on what actually are the SDGs. What do we hope to achieve? How can they, as a citizenry, help us to achieve these sustainable development goals and ensure that we leave our country better for the next generation, and not just think only about this generation, but what about the future generation? And that is what we plan to do. So there's going to be a lot of awareness creation, education with school children, partnering with the media to bring out articles, documentaries on the SDG, such as what you're doing right now. So this is how our citizenry will be involved, and we are hoping they will hold us accountable once they understand what we're trying to do for the nation. Thank you. I hope you got some sense out of it.
I've got a lot.